But we've got a couple of different reservations.
Okay, today is March 15th, 2021 for the regular council meeting at 6 p.m. at the Village of Stryker. Tonight we have leading us in prayer, Patsy Mueller.
We come to you, O Lord, to give you thanks for the blessings of this day, for the sunshine we had this morning and the spitting rain that was coming in on us when we came in. We give you thanks for all of this because we know it all comes from you. We thank you especially for the public servants that have taken on the responsibility of governing the Village of Stryker. We ask you, Lord, to give them wisdom with insight and understanding in the decisions that are being made. Asking for guidance to make the right choices as they go about the village's business. We ask all this in the name of Jesus, your Son and our Savior. Amen.
Amen. Tonight leading us in the pledge is Army veteran, that's fine right there, whichever, Mr. Jim Mueller.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you both for doing that. You are more than welcome to stay, or
Much more than welcome to home.
and have supper, absolutely.
I trust you guys to handle everything.
But you can bring a supper back up if you want.
There's enough chicken wings for me.
There you go.
All right, thank you both. Roll call.
Ingram,
Here.
Farmer,
Here.
Cameron, here. Sheehan, here. Benner,
Here.
Armstrong.
Yes, man.
Tonight, no visitors. Prior minutes, looking for a motion to accept the regular minutes dated 2/22 of 2021. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Was there any addition or corrections that need made prior to voting? Okay, then roll call.
Farmer,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Sheehan,
Yes.
Benner,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Ingram.
Yes.
Puts us into the finance report dated 3/12/2021. Is there a motion to accept the finance report as stated on the date?
Motion to accept finance report through 12/21.
And a second?
So moved.
With that, I'm gonna go right to Beth for any of her comments that might spur some of ours based on the finance report. So Beth?
From this last meeting to this meeting, our expenses were $59,280. Our revenue was $83,290. Roughly 24,000 to the good. So we had a good time period.
Any questions for Beth? Okay, so with that, roll call?
Cameron,
Yes.
Sheehan,
Yes.
Benner,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Ingram,
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes.
I wanted to jump over the agenda item there, talking about the new police cruiser. I will let Chief Slusher jump in when it comes time for him to brief us on his monthly, but that has been delivered. Communications that we currently have is big trash pickup. I know that's always a hot item about right now when the flowers start to pop up and the weather turns somewhat above 30. It seems like this is always a big item. So with that one, we have the big trash on 5/8. On 5/8, that is going to be the big trash. And if you want to bring that up, Saturday. Okay. Did we double check that there wasn't any large track meet that day?
I don't know if we did.
Okay. But they were.
They'll work around it.
If you would, just double check that, and I know they worked around that for us last year. Seemed to be fairly busy. Any communications from council members that you wanted to put out there that did not get on the agenda? Start here on the left.
I'm gonna, I got a phone call from Patty Miller, for you, Alan, to let Wes and Mike know that she very much appreciated them last week or so. She was taking Buck out of the house to go to an appointment, and he slipped and fell, and they must have saw it, came right over, helped her get him back up, and if it hadn't meant for them, she would have called 911.
They
So
did tell me,
she-
they told me about that.
Okay, so she truly did appreciate that, and she wanted to make
I
sure
will
that
let them,
we all knew that she really appreciated them too for doing that.
Good. So it's really fortunate they just happened to be right.
Yeah, they saw it all, I mean, so they were just right there, I mean, it was just very fortunate, so, yeah.
Nice.
And he wasn't hurt or anything like that, so.
Anyone else have communications for the village?
Actually, where Joe's is up here on the corner,
Yeah.
gentleman from Hicksville was up there, and since COVID's starting to slack down, he's hoping to get his restaurant opened up.
Moving back again.
So, yep.
I know there for a while, he's pretty active on it. and
He's
then
been moving stuff in pretty consistent.
I know there, it seemed like things went south for him, some
Yeah.
things happened, and so that's good news.
Yeah, and he said that everything, he's getting his ducks in a row, so he said hopefully here soon.
Good. Okay. Any other communication? Then that's going to lead us into the committee reports, which he did not have any. However, Beth, being part of the records committee, she loves to have these. So we need to schedule a records committee meeting. What days were you looking at, Beth?
I was just hoping we could do it before the next council meeting.
Oh,
I mean, it doesn't have to be done right away, I just thought we could do it if Katie's gonna be at the next meeting. I forgot to ask, Patsy before she left, I was gonna ask her. I thought maybe we probably just need like a half hour.
okay.
I have all the paperwork done, it's what we have to do to be able to get rid of some of the,
Part of the retention.
the retention. I have about 3 years worth of stuff that's on the schedule.
Would that happen to be the 16th? Our next meeting?
Actually, it's April 19th.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
looking at payroll.
yeah,
dates.
it's April 19th.
Okay.
Do you wanna do it right just before the meeting?
Yeah.
That works best for you?
Yeah, I already have the paperwork done, it's just a matter of the committee looking over it and looking at the boxes and saying, yeah, this is what's in the boxes, and
Since we don't have this committee every month, who all is on the committee? I know I am.
President of council, you, Patsy Mueller, Katie, myself. It's on the bottom of your committee paper.
Mayor, village solicitor,
Mhm.
president of council, fiscal officer, citizen, Patsy Mueller.
I was thinking there was one more. Okay,
No.
I was wrong.
But while you're looking at that, the very bottom of that, the planning and zoning,
Mm-hmm.
you need to appoint a council person to that, because, Rex Blevins was on that.
Okay. So if someone is interested in that, just get with me. It's something to think about. I don't wanna put you on the spot right now, but it's something to think about if you're looking to be, on another committee, but that would be the planning and zoning. I can tell you that one, I don't know that we had anything last year, but the year before, we had 1 or 2 items, since being in this seat. So it's not a high volume of taking your time, but it is some stuff to really think through and look at, since it does affect, so I think the last one was downtown stuff. So if you're interested in that, you can get with me, or you can get with Beth, and we'll, look at filling that seat. Okay, we had, the next one is the legislative. This one is talking about the solar, panel. And the presentation we had last month that we're looking to, or that is being looked at to lease part of that. There's 31.6 acres, they're right in there, something like that, I think I read somewhere. And they were looking at a part of that. A couple things to remember as we're going through. If you look on that very last page is the layout that they would be looking for as far as which property this would go on. And realize that from the presentation last month, the property to the east of us is already under contract, or was going to be. And then south, what county road is that right there?
E50.
E50, the property on the south side of ours would also have that. So it would be on the east side as well as the south is under contract. That is not anything that we can control one way or the other. It sounded like that was pretty much done, is my interpretation from his meeting. And then we were going to be allowed to also take some of the property that we have and put that in this as well. So I guess I'm going to kind of open it up. I did not read the full lease. I trust the city attorney to throw us the flags on anything there, because it's either a yes or no for me. So I'm very basic on that kind of stuff. I have to leave that to the experts. So maybe I'll start with there, if there were some things that she's seen in the agreement that maybe raise a few flags, or if you guys have some questions for her that she may be able to get back with you. But ultimately, what they're looking at is some solar panels on our village, current village property. There is income coming from that. You can see in there, there's different levels during the progression or the construction of, and then as far as the length as well. So there's some good talking points with this. My understanding is they want to have this by the end of the month. If you guys are not sure of whether we should do this or not, need to hold off a little bit after this discussion, we can talk later, but we would do a special meeting so that could be voted on. So don't feel like you have to do it if you're not sure. Realize this is, I think, 50 years. Is that what it is total? So realize this is going to be well past many of us. Well, at least me, more than likely. So realize that we're impacting not just today. So with that, village solicitor.
I have, just an FYI, I have reviewed quite a bit of these solar easements. I did one in Michigan. They're all very similar. The one downfall of any kind of solar easement or lease is that the length of time that it ties up the property. But if the village wasn't planning on doing anything, or if the village was gonna continue to lease it for farming purposes, and from what I understand, this is actually gonna make more money than the farming lease was, in the long run. Other than that, I mean, you are typical with big countries, or big companies, you're waiving your right to trial by jury, so if anything would go wrong with this lease agreement, it all goes to arbitration. But that's a typical provision, and that actually, I would prefer that because it stays out of the court system. But other than that, everything else was standard. I mean, it's not a huge stream of income for during the development period, from what I understand. But after that, it does pick up. So there's no really any red flags. This is just a standard agreement. It's just a matter of whether the village wants to do it or not.
So based on that, did you guys have, or ladies, have any questions for Katie on any of the legal terms or items in here? You guys are very quiet tonight.
How much time is left on, I'm sorry, how much time is left on the lease that we currently have with the farming, do we know?
That one, is
We
it
have
due?
this year,
2?
2.5 years.
We just did it,
We
yeah.
just did, it's almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay,
And with that current, we can get out of that at any time.
okay.
And
Well, my understanding is we can do both
Mhm. Yes.
until they start construction.
Correct.
I was just curious how much more time we have.
with the lease of the land currently for crops, depending on when it is, I mean, there'd be a little bit, there's provisions in there for any time that we could take it back.
I'm sorry, Sam.
Now say we go forward with this, and we decide that you want to terminate it, how much of a hassle is that going to be?
It has to be, I think, the only way to terminate it, and that's I mean, the only way to terminate it is the other party would have to agree as well, so it'd have to be a mutual termination, or we would have to show that they materially breached the contract, so they did something that they weren't supposed to. That's my understanding of the only way to terminate it, but let me look at this real quick.
Yeah, it's like, section 4.3 that's on that second page of that.
Yeah, so they have the right, and this is standard
It's
too.
pretty plain, yeah.
They have the right, if they want to, if they ultimately start the development period and decide, you know, this isn't gonna work, it's not gonna be profitable, they can give us 30 days notice and let us know that they're gonna terminate this. Stryker can't do the same thing and say, this isn't working for us. We have to be able to show that they materially breached the contract or that they'll agree to let us out of it. So it has to be a mutual agreement that way. Does that make sense?
Now, is that something that we could talk to them and get changed, so, or do you think they wouldn't go forward with that?
That wouldn't be a hard sell, because if they have if they've spent all of this money on trying to put these solar panels in, that's the reason that they don't wanna do it that way, because
Okay.
if they spend all this time and effort to put these solar panels in, and then we say, oh, you know, we're gonna give you 30 days notice to get all your stuff out, they're at a huge loss. It wouldn't be the same for the village, because the village just owns the land.
And then 2%. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's $800 per acre per year, then 2% increase every year
After construction.
after construction.
After
Yes.
construction. But they have an extended time that they can take if it takes longer for the construction. But then it's like, I think what it was like $10 an acre extra.
Yeah, I saw that on it too.
And I would say that's, and Katie can jump in on this, on construction sites, there's always some type of penalty if it's not done on a certain date. I don't think they're going to tie their hands or anything like that and say,
No, they pay the 800 during the
right,
construction.
they'll pay that, but the extra 10 or whatever it is fairly small.
No, they don't pay the 800 during construction.
This says within 45 days after the first day of construction, lesser shall pay lesser the sum of $800 per acre. So 45 days after the construction pay is when the $800 kicks
Up
in.
until construction, it's $40 per acre.
Right, that's when,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
when you're not doing anything. And
Right.
you can
Right.
still farm it during that period,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
so. That's basically just a down payment to hold the land.
Yes, just to keep it in the
Right,
contract.
so it's just, but we can still keep our current
Yes,
thing while that's happening.
which that one, Lee, you remember that it was 218 an acre.
So it's just an extra $40 until they start construction.
I do have a question, and I don't think it's probably for Katie, but they talked about how they give money, like, to a charity of our choice, like a percentage. How does that work? Like, do we have a local charity that we can keep it in our community or our
I remember them
village?
saying that they give to charity, but I don't recall them saying we get to choose who it was.
I thought we got to choose.
I was thinking there was input, we could have the input.
Input, yes.
I think we did fund it.
Yeah, he said something about we can make recommendations. Yeah,
Correct.
That's,
So is there, do we know, is there going to be any other, obviously there's going to be monies coming in. It's very difficult because one of the things that we have looked at, and I think that paper is kind of walked around, one of the things we looked at is potentially converting that property into housing. The issue with that right now is infrastructure, it's not there, and the cost of that is huge. That is definitely big. I've told you before that in an area east of me, they don't build a house. When construction is happening, they don't build a house, they're building actually a neighborhood, which is similar to what we're looking at here. Now, east, that's a little bit higher work area. I mean, there's more jobs that way compared to out in this location. So there's that possibility as well. Is that going to be income that we can quantify? The answer is no. We can't, because we don't know if there could be a potential of 1 house or 0 houses to 50 houses. We don't know where that's at. So that's an unknown. With this one, the known is there. And whether we go with this company or not, there's going to be solar panels on the east side as well as the south side. My concern, and this is for you guys' talking points, is if we do this, we limit greatly the amount of homes that can go there, obviously, or the attractiveness of it. However, if we don't go with it, is the attractiveness of building homes in that area diminished as well because it's on the east side and south? Can you build some things with natural landscapes? Sure you can. So those are some things to think about as well.
Well, by only leasing out half of the property, you're still leaving half of it there to be developed.
Correct.
I don't know anything about development. Is 15 acres enough for a developer to consider, or do they need 30 acres?
Fourth grade. Look on that plan.
Yeah,
That's about half, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty close.
And how many lots are on there? Approximately.
22.
another thing to consider is through
Yeah.
the area
Well, that's not-
that will be continued to be farmland.
If they went all.
There's a pipeline under there that you can't build on.
So.
Is there?
There's an easement through there. I think it's Ohio Gas. Does anyone know what that line is that runs through there? Before the woods, or the woods got tore out, you could see a divide. No, that's the power line. There's a,
Leave room for 42.
it goes something like this.
So you can't build houses on that?
You cannot build over top of that line.
Why are we trying to develop property you can't?
Well, that's gonna cut down what we could build on.
Didn't he
Does
say
it show
that
on this side?
Didn't he say on this?
I'm not
side
sure if it's
that
on that
that's
map or
for
not.
that land?
Was that, is it Ohio Gas?
Look on that.
They're coin.
Part of the
They just,
I think the way it's all about. This is not ours, right? This one used to be, money.
Are these ours, Alan, right here?
Just,
yes.
Those are.
Yep.
Those are.
just where, I thought it was on the north side of the city. Right between there.
Okay. I'm not
Because,
sure.
go back to the marijuana facility,
Where this stops like.
and there was concern over just south of the development that's there now, that they could not build them.
Maybe it's a different.
Could be.
Yeah, there's a line down there. If you guys remember,
Their map is different than what that.
if you remember it's been about 5 years ago, when the marijuana facility was looking at for the grower, one of the things that they were looking at the southeast corner for that property, but there was a line that went through that would have been between them and the current houses that are there, that they could not build them.
Can they not build solar panels on the unit then? Or
That
can
would-
you not build
Permanent
any
structures.
The property would belong to
Yeah, well, they have rights to basically anything through there, so you can't build permanent items. So the exact,
This doesn't take that into consideration.
that, let me see that one. I believe it comes right through here. So that would have to come out. So if we're looking at this section here, that ran somewhere back through here, because the other facility was looking to be here, but they had to have so much distance right there. So no, this one does not take that into consideration.
And so if it goes through there, it could go through this section as well and prevent them or no?
No, I believe it comes right through here, there used to be woods back here that you could see the cutout of where the line was at, which made it easier, and it was something, it's slight angle on that. So that's another item to consider as well.
Yeah, we have to figure out where that line is.
Okay, what other wrenches can I throw into this for you guys? And that would be something that we would want to confirm of exactly where that's at. You know, it's kind of like the old guy saying my property line's right over there around that tree area,
That rock over there.
till you moved it.
Is that something that was done when they surveyed it, this sunset?
But based on what they're looking at, from what I recall, they wouldn't touch it, based off of where they're proposing.
Yeah, 'cause, yeah, I think that pipeline is bordered north, like right up against residential.
I think it's really, really close to that.
To the back houses, back to the.
Okay, and I want to, for some reason, 100 feet from that back property is what's sticking in my head.
That sounds about right.
Well, they have to stay 300 feet away from any lines,
Any buildings?
anything anyway.
These guys do?
Yes.
And it may be that they already calculated that, and that's why they're
Could be.
suggesting this, for all we know.
It's a possibility. So there's advantages and disadvantages on both sides of this. I definitely see both sides of it. What are you guys thinking? What do you think?
I don't see a big disadvantage right now, because this is, right now, it's just theoretical. I mean, if there was something that we were seriously, this was gonna happen in, 2 or 3
Anybody else want to
years,
see that?
that would be one thing.
Did you get to see that?
But, right now, what they're proposing is going to, not prevent us from the current contract we have until they start construction. And then when the construction kicks in, it's gonna be almost 4 times what we're already getting on the property. They're gonna be putting those things there, right around there anyway. So I don't see a whole lot of downside, and this right here doesn't prevent you from doing that anyway. Because the part that you do have on there doesn't come this far down. So I don't really see a whole downside,
Okay.
to be honest.
I kind of agree with Sean there. I mean, I would just like to have all our ducks in a row before we go forward, to know everything, so we don't end up biting us in the row.
Okay. Ricky?
You said east and south, I'm confused. There's 2 different solar projects going?
Where they at, Wayne?
No. It's all the same
It's the property
project.
they already have leased, the yellow.
That's what they already have leased out to start construction.
From who?
Farms,
From
people
From the
that.
The
landowner.
landowner.
Yeah. That stuff's already leased, and they already have more than enough acres to build it.
This would be the the electrical line, the main one going through. And then that's just us sitting over here. So it's going to be on the east side of us and south side. So there's really very little question on whether there's going to be solar panels in Springfield Township. I think there's very little, because that's part of that.
Yeah,
The
it's
only
already,
question is, do we wanna add 15 acres?
it's already happening, so, yeah.
So,
Just for the record, not that anyone here really cares, but there's a legal issue. I thought this provided for arbitration, but it doesn't. It actually says something better, that if this would ever go into a court system, it's supposed to go into a federal court located in Ohio. A lot of times companies like this will pick courts in Minnesota or Texas, some random place where the village has to travel, but here it's gonna be in Ohio, so that's even better than arbitration. So just, I wanted to make it clear to the record.
okay. Any other questions, Vicki, or thoughts or
No, good.
concerns?
I mean, financially wise, it sounds good. But on the flip side, like you say, if housing also sounds, just as appealing, if we know there's gonna be, guarantee that we can get that housing done. I mean, because we definitely need housing.
I'm all for housing. The downside, and I'm gonna give the negative side of it, is we currently have some lots in town that could easily be built on, that have the infrastructure at the curb.
Right.
And
And we're probably looking like, how much does it cost for infrastructure?
Thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Probably $1 million.
Well, I ran some numbers, well, my mom had some property south of Bryan, about 30 acres. And I ran some numbers with Tim Carlin, and to put the infrastructure in there is gonna be around $3 million.
For 30 acres.
Yeah,
$1 million for 10 acres.
roughly, yes. So, for what that's worth, you know, that could change over here in Strike. Less than that, but it's still gonna have a major financial impact.
correct. And I'm gonna say that that's one of the big reasons, and you guys can jump in, is the infrastructure isn't there yet. Because if we put it in, it's a cost that we're not seeing anything on, or
Now, if
who knows?
if they construct on there, they're gonna have some electric from, or some kind of system from those, panels. Would that assist in putting infrastructure there for later use or no?
As far as electricity,
Well, I mean, those panels gotta hook to something, right?
they hook to the main power lines on the towers.
Okay, so
And
that's not gonna be
That does not
anything-
affect
Okay,
any reduction in rates for the village.
gotcha.
There was a central, I think they tried to put it in the middle of that
Yeah.
transfer station?
Yeah.
Is that what it's
They
called?
need that right on that.
Substation,
They
They're
need
gonna
that right
fill
on
it-
that
they're
line, so
gonna
it's
find
probably
it.
more in that orange, that red square there.
or as close, yeah.
Probably.
So they would just transfer the power to that spot and then up.
Right, but they have to hook everything up, is what I'm saying, so I didn't know if that would leave something behind that we can use or not.
I would not see a need for water or sewer. Their roads, they said they put in, thought they did gravel so they could easily take it
Yeah,
out.
dirt and gravel.
So,
The station's unmanned.
pretty minimal.
So I was just curious if they left anything behind it that we could use, it sounds like not.
Okay. Anything else, Kim? Okay.
Well, the way they made it sound when they leave, it's just like it was when they started.
With giving the land rest because it hasn't been cropped. I thought it was gonna be a 7-year thing. Go ahead. Dave?
So with all this said, with the potential development restraints of the infrastructure, do we offer them all 30 acres?
Do they want it?
Do they want it?
I don't know. If there's some kind of line in
They-
there.
they would
can't
take
build
it
on,
all.
may not
They
want
would
it.
take, yeah, the way that.
But
they made it sound,
I
they would
let
take
him
it all.
know we were possibly gonna develop part.
Okay, so they would take it.
They would take
And
it.
this line wouldn't affect them at all?
I'm not, don't know about the gas line.
Okay.
That would be their problem.
That would be their problem, yes.
Between them and Orange. Well, I think it's without gas. I'm pretty sure it is. But my memory's not always great. Okay? Threw another cog in that wheel, didn't you?
That's what I do, boss.
Okay. Lee?
There's good points both sides. There's been a lot of good discussion about this. I can see everything on both sides. It's great, but just something doesn't sit right with me about it, so I'm not for it at all. Something just doesn't sit right with me.
My take is my concern. Am I opposed to it? Not necessarily opposed. I'm concerned about how it ties our hands for 50 years. It takes away our ability to do something else with that, even though we don't have something in the works. I've always heard about places getting landlocked. We will be landlocked, in a sense. So that's just I mean, again, I don't get to vote on this one, this is 100% you guys. That would be my concern. Do I see the benefits of it financially? Absolutely I do. 100% see them. I mean, they're hard numbers. You can't argue true hard numbers.
But really, is 15 or 30 acres going to not landlock us? I mean, 15 acres, when you're talking about building houses, it's not that much. And so we're gonna be landlocked if we build houses there. So one way or the other, we're still in the same spot.
Yeah, you could look at it that way, absolutely. I would say the flexibility to do other things with that property. I know we had a place, we were at least on the list of a company looking, and I think they were under 100 people. Is that right? On that property? We were on a list for that. We're no longer on that list. We were taken off of that one. They narrowed it down. Those options, I think, would be out. But again, you know, it's, do you take the pluses and minuses here, or do you take the pluses and minuses here? This one, we know what would be coming in, compared to the other is more of the wishful thinking and the potential of what may happen. So those are the things that you really have to consider as you talk about it. So I guess here's my question. Are you guys comfortable enough to make a vote on it tonight? Or would you like to sit and think more through it? Because remember, we're 50 years out with this one. And then we can hold a special meeting, which we need to have it before the end of this month. We would have to hold a special meeting and specifically vote on whether to accept or not accept. So the first question is, do you want a little more time to think on it? Or not? How,
I'm good.
you're good? Kim?
I'm good.
Okay, Dave?
I'll be good.
Okay. So the long thinking of waiting might give us the answer.
I know.
Just,
Yeah, go ahead, let's do it.
Okay. And you-
Yeah, I've been kicking
You're
this
good?
around for a
You're
month
good?
already.
And Sam?
Yeah.
Okay.
can I add a few things?
Jump in.
Just, you keep saying 50 years and that just, wow, gives me a heart attack. It's not necessarily 50 years. If they, I mean, it's a they can renew it for a period of 10 years each for 3 times.
Yeah, it's 30 years for sure with potential.
Third, okay.
So what I just wanna make clear is, based on how fast our technology progresses, in 25 years, we may be getting all of our solar power from Mars, or, you know, it's just something that we don't know. So it could be that this ends in 30 years, and, because solar power isn't an issue anymore, or they're not getting what they want out of it. So just an FYI. And the other thing I wanted to say was, I've seen this packet of material so many times in my office lately. I feel like all of my partners have had some landowner that's brought the same company's lease agreement to them. So if anyone is in doubt, there are a ton of, and I'm sure everyone here knows somebody that has land that may be under the same sort of lease agreement. So if anyone wants to talk to any other landowners, I think that's a great idea. That would help.
Thank you for correcting the number of years.
No,
No,
it's not-
that's
that
good.
is-
That's good, because what I had heard was 50,
And
So
it could
thank
be,
you.
that's a possibility,
up to.
up to 50,
Well,
yeah.
that's what he said it's up to.
Well, it could be 60. It's 5 for the construction, 25 for the lease, and then 3 periods of 10-year
Mhm.
extensions.
Okay.
I got a question now. Do we have to give
What's
them
that?
an extension?
That's
The
true.
10-year extension, like,
So
what,
at the
say-
end of the 5-year is like a preparatory period.
Right.
Then when they start construction, it starts a 25-year lease. After
Right.
the 25-year, they have the right to extend for 10 years up to 3 times.
It's right on that first page.
right, but do we have to allow it?
Yes, they have the
Okay.
right, they have the first option.
If they
That's a
want it,
good question.
they have the right to it, yes.
Okay,
Because by that time, all their stuff will be on there.
Because their construction period is 2 years, the extended term's 25, the development is 5, and then the renewal's 3 each at 10 years.
So I guess 62, could be as much as 62, but that's the maximum.
Because it's 2-year construction and then 5-year development, or you get rental stage.
And it could be that they go through the development phase and decide, you know what, this isn't working, and in 5 years, and they haven't, that land hasn't been touched, but they've decided that they're just gonna end their project, so that's a possibility too, so.
Right. But the difference in money, so right now, we're leasing that property at 218, so that's about a little bit, I just did the math. 3,270 versus 12,000 when the 800 kicks in. And then, there's also a 2% increase built in every year. So it starts at 800, but every year, it's like a cost of living adjustment. So by the time 30 years up, it's gonna be way more than 800, because 2% every year. I just think a bird in the hand is better than one in the bush. Call me pragmatic, but, I think that's cool and all, but I mean, is it gonna actually happen or not? We don't know.
Okay, any other discussion? What we would wind up doing, this is a contract that Alan can sign. He has that right, so what we would do is vote on whether a yes or no to direct Alan to sign the contract. That way it states, by doing it that way, it will show whether you're for or against it. And then that takes a little, I think, pressure off of Alan, and he knows that you're directing him whether to or not to sign it. So any other discussion on that? Because I'm gonna put the wheel back on for a second, add that fourth wheel to the cart. Is Dave talked about more than just the 15? Is that something that you want to entertain, or just leave it as is?
If we wanna have our,
Cash
if we wanna have our cake and eat it too, do the 15, that way you get half of this and you still get paid for that.
Okay. So at this point, should we just leave it as is and not just let the other alone? Would that be the consensus that we would vote on? Okay.
Yeah.
Say yes.
Okay. So with that, looking for a motion to direct Alan to sign the land lease for the solar easement contract that you have in front of you, as written. Is there a motion, to do that?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we direct Alan to sign the contract as is.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. With that, prior to voting, is there any other discussion? Because I want to make sure that you have your chance to discuss that. Okay, with that, roll call.
Feehan,
Yes.
Benner,
Yes.
Armstrong,
No.
Ingram,
Yes.
Farmer,
No.
Cameron, yes.
Okay. I want to, number one, thank you, because this doesn't happen very often, as far as where there's difference of opinions once we walk through it. I truly appreciate both of you, who wasn't afraid to say no on their opinion, and I appreciate the others that said yes, going through to also state yours. I have stated before, we don't want 6 people here that think identical, so that's a good thing. So I appreciate all of the input you guys had and the boldness for your votes for that. Okay, with that, that's going to lead us into village officials. And Chief Slusher, I will let you go since I skipped over the police cruiser earlier. Part of the police side, so.
All right, well, it's here. Tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, we'll get, probably get it out to Mark Bishop's, over by Ridgeville. He's gonna be doing the radio, he's gonna be doing the transfer of the radio from Steve Mendez's car into this car. Actually, he probably wants to look at it first and decide, if he can actually get it, he's gonna try to get it prioritized, get it head of the line privileges, so to say. If he's got the stuff that he has like the plate for the radio and things like that. If he has everything, then it'll probably get pushed to the front of the line. So really, the only thing that he's got to do is the radar and the in-car camera. Probably looking at him installing maybe an additional light, because it did not come with a light, as far as like a spotlight underneath the hood or the interior compartment. And once that's done, I'm just looking at other options for the decals. I do not intend to buy new decals. We have decals that have already been made for a Charger. Those are gonna go on this vehicle. Shouldn't be any issues whatsoever. Maybe, I'll be looking at maybe some other options. I wanna just change a few things on the decals for this new car. And that's really about it on the vehicle. So looking at getting things going tomorrow.
Can you talk about where that other vehicle will go, even though we've talked about where that spare cruiser, that things are coming out? Talk a little bit about what the plan is for that one.
The K9 vehicle is going to go to the 4-county law enforcement class. We're gonna be donating that. The K9 equipment will be transferred from that vehicle into the 2014, and the students at 4-county are gonna be doing that transfer. So basically it's gonna be free of charge. There's gonna be some, well, also with Mark Bishop, he's probably gonna be taking the, there's a heat sensor in the 2011 in Steve Mendez's car. Obviously that basically just senses the heat inside the vehicle for the dog, sends alerts. It could start the air conditioning, things like that. So that we really don't want students to have to mess with any wiring whatsoever. It's really just, loosening up bolts, breaking things, and, putting them back into another vehicle. So that's kind of what we're looking at doing. They can take all the decals off. We're not gonna mess around with any of that. They can do all that. They're getting a free vehicle out of it. So, or we're donating a vehicle to them, rather. Our chaplain, Nick Walborn, is currently at chaplain training this week. We had a great opportunity. We just found out about it last week, that the International Police Chaplains Association, they're holding a regional training. And when I say regional, I mean like Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota are all in our region. And they're actually holding a training in Shipshewana, Indiana. So we talked about this last week, and it was just brought to my attention that this was going today through Wednesday. So we kind of jumped through some hoops last week to get Nick enrolled into the training, and got some pretty good classes lined up for him, and obviously things he can obviously use here, for the department, and at his church where he serves as a pastor. So, but yeah, it's gonna be good for him, be good for us to get him some training. And I think that's about it. As far as, I guess I should have prefaced everything. I do apologize for not getting my report out. I lost my father-in-law last week. I was on funeral leave from Wednesday until Friday. So I do apologize for not getting that out. As far as monthly stats go, had 51 complaints from last month, and 10 traffic warnings, 0 citations, and 1 arrest.
Any questions for Chief Slusher? All right, thanks, Chief.
Well,
Village Administrator.
Next week, the compost dumpster is scheduled to be delivered. I've had people ask about when we can get that, so next week it'll be here. Seems a little early, but people can bring their leaves and yard waste up, and it'll be sitting behind the village hall. The front door, which was COVID money was spent on, has been installed, except for the electric door opener. That was still to come, he said, so hopefully he'll have that in the next week or two. We did have a pump go out at the main lift station, getting sent in for repairs, and we don't know the exact cost of that yet, but it's just normal maintenance. The big trash is set for May 8th, Saturday, May 8th. And with that, that was one of our only dates they had available left, so we didn't have a lot of options, so we wanted to keep it like in May, so that's what we went with. And I will check to see if anything's happening at the,
Just coordinate it.
At the school.
They worked well with us last year.
yes. That's about all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
So we're gonna have a list up here of everything that can and cannot go.
Correct.
Do we need to give that to the paper as well?
You had
Huh?
that. You had the list, I don't.
Oh, do you need to see the list?
No, it stays in the office up here.
Yes. Any questions for Alan? Okay, as I cringe every time because I know she always has something. Beth, we're gonna go around. We'll start with you.
I'm trying to think real hard. Oh,
I know.
the records committee meeting,
Okay.
did we decide 5:30?
We did not decide
On
what
the
time. We
19th?
decided that before that would be good, but we didn't
Yeah.
decide on the time.
That works, I mean, I can be available anytime.
So 5:30?
5:30
Will that
should
give
be
us plenty?
Yeah.
Does that work for you? Okay, 5:30 on the 19th, for Records Commission. Okay, I'm in awe right now. Okay, with that, Katie, anything for,
No?
okay, Chief?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Out. I'll start on my right, Mr. President. Okay,
I'm good.
Gil?
Good.
I was just gonna ask, what about our electric sign? What did we ever decide on that? I haven't heard.
You were getting some.
I haven't gotten back with him honestly to see if you guys have decided if you want brick or if you just want standstill. Just kind of the question. If you wanna look at some of the pictures.
Is that something, anybody want to be on a committee to look at what we want to design it for? I mean, if someone has a strong opinion what it needs to look like, absolutely, anyone interested in helping pick a sign? Okay. Interested, anybody else? Okay,
They can just come and look with the,
Yep.
what we have.
okay.
I think Alan needs to be on that committee too.
No, he's gonna be involved anyway. That's by
That's one of those
volunteer.
railroad committees.
Railroad, and then the other military guys voluntold, type thing, so he'll be in that. So get with them, definitely, I think it's something we need to travel down that road and look at. Okay. Did I get to you on, okay, Sam, did you have anything else? Okay. Okay, so with that, all those in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same? All right, thanks, gang.
How's he doing?
Wonderful. I am gonna check on that.
Happy boy?
I don't know, so I'm gonna worry about